Hey everybody, it's me, Zach. This is Potato, and welcome back to our channel. Hey everybody, it's me, Zach, and I'm back again to talk about Love is Blind! I don't know why I said it like that. That was so unserious and so unnecessarily aggressive. But hi, Poe is getting comfy. He was so comfy up here, and then I started this video. He said, deuces, I just sat there and watched 12 episodes of Love is Blind with you, Dad. I'm not gonna sit here and listen to you talk about them. It wasn't 12, because I did already cover episodes 1 through 5 in a video that I think I just posted last week. And there were some people that were like, Zach, I wish you would have just waited and covered everything up until a point, because, like, it's so clear that a lot of your opinions on things are going to change, or that you were wrong about some stuff. I just want to say, I totally get where that's coming from, but also I think you're going to find that part of the fun of me now giving my feedback after I've fully watched, I think there's 11 episodes out right now. I've watched all 11 now, so I've caught up. I'm right there with the rest of the world. And yeah, I think, obviously, if you watched my first video with comments and thoughts on Love is Blind, obviously some of my opinions were, well, I wouldn't even say opinions, some of my predictions just did not happen. Some things I feel like I was spot on about. I think it's going to be fun to see how maybe some things have changed for me, maybe some things haven't changed for me, and I hope you will stick around this video to hear all the goofy things that I have to say about it. This video is going to be a little less thought out and planned than where my last one was, mostly just because I really did just spend several hours of my day getting caught up on all the episodes, and so I just want to get all the things out of my mind and onto this video. So I guess let's start with probably the couple that I was the most fucking wrong about, which was, well, I don't even know that you can say that. I guess the one I was the most wrong about was Kenneth and Brittany. Alright, because I had Kenneth and Brittany and Johnny and Amy at this point in my video where I was like, these two couples, they're gonna be perfect together. I don't see how they could go wrong. They're gonna be so good for each other. I was right about Johnny and Amy. I ain't got shit to say about them. Like, I think they're so cute together. I think they're gonna be successful. I don't think there's any way that they're gonna say no at the altar. I think the biggest problem that they have in their relationship is deciding about how to go about achieving birth control, and I think that that's something they can easily work through. It sounds like they're having really adult conversations about that. I think they're great. I think they're cute together. Very excited about them. That's about all I'm going to say about them for the rest of this whole entire video, because I mean, the fun of this show is not the couples necessarily doing well. like the interesting parts of the show are the other 4 couples. Is it 4? The other 4 couples that are kind of a mess. Honestly, all of them kind of a mess. But we'll get into it. Let's start with old Kenneth and Brittany. And more so, let's just talk about Kenneth, okay? Because I have so many thoughts. I said in my last video that I felt like if there were going to be any issues, that the largest issue could potentially be just that, like, I felt like they were being a little naive to the idea of, like, race and the role that it plays in the relationship, and how other people will view them being in an interracial relationship, and or how will they view themselves being in an interracial relationship. And honestly, a lot of, like, the energy that I had for the person that was being naive in that situation, in my opinion, was Brittany, because Brittany was like, you know, it doesn't matter to me what color your skin is. I don't care about those things. That doesn't matter to me. And so for me, I thought, like, you know, I just from one, being a white person in an interracial relationship myself, but two, seeing this play out on other seasons of the show, and also seeing it just like in real life. Like, I know that like white people go into those things if they've never been in an interracial relationship, being a little bit naive about those things. And again, speaking also just from my own personal experience. So color me surprised when it was Kenneth who apparently had just never thought these things through. He was having a conversation at one point with AD, and AD was like, have you thought about this? Have you thought about what this looks like? And Kenneth, like, you could see the gears turning in his head of like, he hadn't thought about any of these things really thoroughly in depth. And so it was weird to me that suddenly became a problem for him. Not that I didn't think that they were not going to have to work through those things, because I like I said, I did anticipate that those things would come up. But just the fact that like he seemingly hadn't thought about it, and then when he brought it up to Brittany was able, in my opinion, to articulate ways that she was ready to address those challenges and talk about those challenges. And she also seemed to be speaking from experience, as though like this wasn't her first time being in an interracial relationship. I'm also having such a difficult time saying in an interracial relationship. I don't know why I'm struggling with that, but if you notice me tripping over those 3 words altogether, that's why. So I thought that was interesting, because I was expecting Brittany to be the issue there, but she seemed to have such like a thought out, like it was clear that it's something that she's thought about before, and at least in my opinion, and was ready to work through with him and, you know, work through any challenges or difficulties with like their friends and family in real life. So there is that. Then, I mean, that was one issue, and honestly kind of seemed like the smallest of issues for them, if you ask me. The biggest issue was just that at a certain point, from episode 6 into episode 7, and actually I don't know how many episodes they ended up being in, because spoiler alert, they're not together anymore. They're done. They were home for maybe a couple days after the trip to the Dominican Republic, and it was over. But to me, a big problem seemed to be that like at no point post pods did Kenneth really seem to be interested in Brittany. Like, he seemed to have such little interest, and we saw this when they were on the boat, and he just had nothing to say to her, and then all of a sudden saw them dolphins and got all giddy and excited. I was like, sir, could you show any kind of giddiness or excitement for the very beautiful woman sitting next to you? Like, I don't get it. And then it was even worse when they moved into the apartment together, and he was just constantly on his phone. And that's not to say that he doesn't like have stuff to do or work to get done, but I also just want to be clear that it's clear that they're not filming them the entire time, right? So like, they're specifically filming right now. Why don't you take this time where you're being filmed together with the woman you're engaged to work with her on unpacking your life and getting everything together? Sit there and talk to her and have a conversation, because the phone thing consistently, every time that they sit down together, he's like pulls out his phone at some kind of point. And it's not to say that you can't get the things that you need to get done, but like, my dude, like, take some time to show interest in the woman you're engaged to. And then what really just like ticked me off with him is that she fully came to him with a problem or concern. Like, when it came to like the penultimate, like, we're done conversation, she came to him with what I think was a very reasonable concern of like, hey, why did you wake me up at 1 a.m. when you got in last night? Like, I was not in a place to be like woken up. I knew I had to get up early. I had to go to work, whatever it was that she said. But I, you know, as somebody who also doesn't like to be woken up in the middle of the night, I really related to that. Like, if Noel got home late, I've actually had these conversations with Noel. I'm like, you get home late and I'm already in bed. You do not have to wake me up to let me know that you're here. Also, like, if you wake up early in the morning to go somewhere, you do not have to wake me up to say like goodbye. I will trust that you're going to get to where you need to be. And if I wake up in the morning and find out otherwise, like, we will figure it out. But like, I value my sleep. Okay. So I related to that. And she was just, I think it was very fair for her to communicate, babe, you woke me up in the middle of the night. You knew I had to be somewhere. I knew you were coming home late. Like, you did not need to do all that. And then it led into her also talking about just in general about how she didn't feel the same like crave and desire for him that she had for him in the pods. His ass was like, well, that's a you problem. Don't put this on we. Don't say we don't have a craving for each other anymore. That's you. And he was like, I tried to show interest in you last night when I woke you up at 1 a.m. Was that not enough for you? When she's sitting here trying to be like, you're not physically intimate with me, like they were trying to like not have sex until they were married, but like he wasn't being like physically intimate in any kind of way, like touching, hugging, kissing, etc. And he was like, but I tried to do that at 1 a.m. when I woke you up. Girl, what made you think that was like a romantic thing to do? She's trying to sleep. Like, what is your problem? Just so frustrating and annoying to me. I gotta be honest with you. I was like, who are you? And then that ended. Then it ended, and then he went and got on his phone and was like talking to his friend and was like, I'll be there soon. I'm leaving. Sir, were you ever interested? Like, what is going on here? What is going on? Because it really was giving, and granted, we don't see everything. I'm sure there were things that happened off camera that would have given more context and things like that, but I was just like not getting it. I really wasn't. I will say, as I'm talking today, I have seen various things online. I haven't really had a chance to vet a lot of things, and I'm mostly just going to be talking about what I've seen from the show itself. And in particular, I've seen some stuff about Kenneth, and I just got to say this, like, to his defense. I've seen some stuff on the internet that maybe came from, like, a cousin or somebody who knows him in real life that, like, was doing some speculation in regards to his sexuality and things like that. I think that that's really just super unfair to a person who's may or may not be queer. When it comes to queer people, I don't think that we should be trying to out them. I don't think that any person that is his family has his best interests at heart if they're out here like talking about his sexuality like that on the internet. And certainly if he's anywhere on the queer spectrum, like that is his prerogative and his information to share with people. Certainly if he's like 100% gay, like there's probably some stuff he needs to work out there, and maybe he shouldn't have like been on a dating reality show to begin with. But also, who knows if this was part of his journey, part of his process of figuring out that he is, or potentially he's bisexual, you know, like it's a whole spectrum. And this show doesn't have a good history of treating bisexual people correctly or great. If you watch the very first season, there was a man who was bisexual, and the woman he was engaged to get married to fully left him because he came out as bisexual to her. And so I could see there being a lot of fear surrounding that. So I just want to say that in case you want to come here and speculate on his sexuality, because I know that's a thing that's been happening on the internet. And in general, I'm always team, like, unless somebody comes out and tells you that they are a certain sexuality, that you leave it out of there. We can talk about his interest in Brittany, which was 0, without speculating that his interest in her was 0 because he was gay or something like that. Like you can have a whole conversation about how he should have shown some kind of interest to her without all of that, you know? But anyways, oh my God, I can't believe how long I just talked about literally just Kenneth and Brittany when like we still have other problems to talk about on this show. Like for real, for real. They were only in like 2 more episodes. There's like 1,200 other episodes that they weren't even in that we gotta talk about, besties. I think the next people I'll address is AD and Clay, who I actually, you know, in my last video, I said that I didn't think that they would be, I was worried about their chances, because it felt like Clay had a lot of work to do on himself, and I do still stand by that, especially because a lot of the things that seem to be a concern in their relationship come back to Clay just being insecure about like his family's history and his concerns of like needing to grow himself and learn and be a better person and this, that, the other. And I really believe AD when she says that she's dated a lot of men who needed a lot of work and that she didn't want to be there to put in that work. Like that's not her job, is to fix all these men. And so that's I guess still largely my worry, because like Clay's out here. I mean, Clay shared a lot of vulnerable and personal things, which I think takes a lot of strength, and I don't fault him for any of that. Like, I thought, wow, this is like really inspiring to see a man like on TV talking thoroughly about his feelings and things like that. I don't think that happens enough for men. I think more men need to be doing that. And, you know, he shared a lot about, like, experiences with his parents' marriage and his father's infidelity. And it's so interesting to me because so many times he, like, talks to AD about being worried about, you know, the potential of him cheating on her, or the potential of their marriage not working out. And I do get that if that's like what you've seen in a marriage, that you might be worried of that getting repeated. But I did see a tweet from somebody that was like, somebody needs to tell Clay that like infidelity isn't genetic. Like, you don't, like, there's not a cheating gene in your DNA that's gonna make you just cheat on AD. Like, you don't have to do that. And I agree. But what I will say, honestly, truly, besides like Amy and Johnny, I think AD and Clay do have one of the more mature relationships. And I think that's probably honestly largely in part due to AD, because she is such an emotionally mature person that I think she's really leading a lot of that. And I'm glad that in some of the later episodes, they did move past their, like, I don't know, they did a lot of what I described. If you watch me for any of, like, my Amber Lynn videos, if y'all remember the way Amber Lynn and Wifey used to be like, babe, baby, 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 baby. Oh my gosh. AD and Clay did so much of that, and it just, like, for me, it was too much. It was too, like artificially sweet, you know? Like, that doesn't seem authentic. But I do think as you continue watching the show, there's less of that, and more of their conversations feel very real to me. I enjoyed getting to meet actually both of their moms. Both of their moms had such, like, good wisdom to share for their relationships, and it seemed like both of their moms really wanted the best for them. And honestly, you know, I wasn't so sure that they're going to be successful, but I think there is a real possibility that they get to the altar and they both say yes. I think there is. I will say, in one of the episodes I just watched this morning, though, it was interesting because it seemed like Clay was trying to position himself in a place where he could say no to her at the altar and still try to have a relationship afterwards, because it seemed like he was worried about, like, the timing of all of this and it all going so quickly. He's also really caught up. I do appreciate how meta the show is willing to be, because they did talk about how he was watching old episodes of Love is Blind and seeing the types of men that were on that show and how he aspired to be those men. I was like, that's interesting that you're, like, fully going meta here and talking about watching the show on the show. But I do appreciate also AD was like, I don't need you to be those men. I need you to be the man that you are. Like, again, she's just so emotionally intelligent. So anyways, I do think there's a possibility Clay might say no. I think AD's ready to say yes. I honestly think they're both going to say yes. I really do. I think they included that conversation as kind of like a red herring to put some doubt and suspense on it. But I feel like my current prediction is that they'll both say yes. So anyways, that's AD and Clay. I don't think I have anything else to say about them. I think they're a cute couple. I think Clay is very attractive. I think AD is a very beautiful woman, and I hope the best for them. So I'm trying to decide which controversial couple to go to next. I guess I'll save Chelsea and Jimmy for the end, because there's a lot there. But let's talk about old Laura and Jeramey. I want to say, you know, one of my biggest L's from that last video is that I said that Jeramey was the most attractive man to me because of his personality and his looks, because I have a thing for just silly, goofy guys. I would like to redact that statement. I'd like to retract. Is it redact or retract? I think potentially both words work in this situation. Because I'm team fuck Jeramey. And not like in a sexual way, but like, fuck you, Jeramey. Like, you are just a heinous piece of shit. that is where I'm at. So if you don't, like, the quick recap, the too long didn't watch, is that at one point in one episode, it shows Jeramey just chilling in the living room of their apartment. Laura comes out, and Laura sits down, and she's like, so do you want to tell me where you've been? Do you want to tell me where you've been? Fuck boy. And Jeramey's like, I don't think we need to talk about it. I don't think it's an issue. And she's like, you don't need to talk about it? You were out until 5:30 a.m. What were you doing out until 5:30 a.m.? And then he tried to play it off of like, oh, I was just drinking. I was just out drinking with the boys. And then slowly, as she continued to push for more information, he would put out more little bits of the truth. And see, that's the issue I take with all of this, is that it would have been 100% different if he would have just started this conversation out with full honesty to begin with, but he didn't. She had to keep prying for the information, which pisses me off because in a couple episodes later, he tries to sit there and act like, I was fully honest with you. I don't understand why you're mad. And no, your ass was not fully honest with Laura. So anyways, as she keeps pushing for more information, it turns into, well, I ran into Sarah Ann, which if you don't remember who Sarah Ann is, she was the third part of the love triangle of Sarah Ann, Jeramey, and Laura, okay? He still had feelings for Miss Sarah Ann, and he saw her out at the bar, and so then it turned into, well, I just saw her there. It went from that to, well, afterwards we went out and we talked in the parking lot of the bar in my car. And then he was like, you should trust me. I sent you my location. I don't understand why you don't trust me. And she's like, well, first of all, I don't want to be in a relationship where my partner feels like they have to send me their location so that I can trust them. But second of all, since you did send me your location, tell me why you left that bar. Where did you go after that? Oh, you went to Sarah Ann's house? You went to Sarah Ann's house? And he's like, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it. And then he just cut off the conversation there, and then they part ways. So yeah, so fuck him. So fuck him. Because I think if he would have said, I ran into Sarah Ann, and, you know, like, I talked to her about where we left things, and then I took her home, that would have been a way different conversation. But it's clear that he was still having feelings for her, and that there was something going on there, because he wasn't truthful about it. Because, like, if there wasn't anything going on there, why would you just be truthful about it to begin with? I should also say, prior to this event happening, because again, I watched like 6 episodes, so my mind is all over the place. But I should also say that at one point, Miss Sarah Ann had sent him a DM. When she got out of the pod, she sent him a DM while they were in the Dominican Republic. And she was like, oh, like, thank you so much for the experience. It really meant a lot to me. I just want you to know that, like, we're in a good place. But also, paraphrasing here, also, if there's ever a chance, or if you feel like you made the wrong decision, I'm still here. I'm still here. Sarah Ann said, I know you're engaged, but just a reminder, I'm still here. So we can talk about Miss Sarah Ann in a second, because, like, whatever. But Jeramey, he showed Laura at the time, didn't respond to it, did double tap to give it a little heart. You know, when you do that in DMs on, like, Instagram. I think that was a good sign of, like, you showing Laura when it happened. That's a good sign for you to be like, hey, I just want you to know this happened. I want to make sure we're on the same page as each other. But once he started, like, not being upfront about all the things, I was just like, oh, I know I'm so done with you, man. I know I'm so over you. And then to go on and gaslight her later, like, gaslight her and make her feel like she shouldn't be mad about this situation and make it sound like he was, like, upfront with her the whole time. No, fuck you. Fuck you. So I do want to be clear that I am team, like, if a man is unfaithful or does something fucked up, like, we don't, we don't come for the woman because, like, the man is the one that made the issue. I'm 100% on that team. I also really feel like Laura was really on that team. Laura did share, like, yes, I'm upset with Sarah, but really the problem is Jeramey. So I do want to be clear about that before I say what I'm about to say. But I also want to say fuck Sarah Ann. I do because my girl AD is a girl's girl, okay? You want to know a girl's girl, it's AD. Because AD, they had this little, like, barbecue party out by, like, the lake or a beach or something. I don't know where they're at. They're in one of the Carolinas, right? Anyways, they're there, and AD was like, okay, Miss Sarah Ann, you're here. I saw the DM you sent to him. What made you think it was okay to reach out to a man that you knew was engaged to a woman? What made you think that was okay? What? And to that extent, I agree. Like, I get it. I would have gotten it if she was just like, hey, thanks for the experience. I want you to know there's, like, no hard feelings, whatever. But she knew what she was doing. She totally knew what she was doing. She 100% knew it. Whether she thought that he left a door open for her to do that or not, like, she knew he was engaged to a woman that wasn't her. So, I knew I had bad vibes about Miss Sarah Ann, and I was right, y'all. I was so right. I will say this about Laura, and this will transition nicely into us talking about Chelsea and Jimmy, because, there's so much to unpack there. I do think what's interesting about Laura is that they showed a clip of Laura meeting up with Jess, meeting up with Jess from the pods, who did not end up matching with anybody. She was talking to Jimmy in the pods. Jimmy did not pick her. And I did think it was interesting that Laura seemed to be goading Jess into maybe potentially still having feelings about Jimmy. I will say I don't think that she ever encouraged Jess to pursue Jimmy, but there was, like, a conversation of, like, do you think Jimmy would want to still see Jess? And Laura's like, yes, I think Jimmy would love to see you. And so I did feel like that was a little weird, considering at the same time she was getting upset about, like, the DM from Sarah Ann to Jeramey. I don't know. What I will say is that we do see Jess reunite with Jimmy. And I think Jess is, like, one of the most mature people as well. She's very clearly intelligent, very clearly emotionally intelligent. And I got the vibe that, like, Jess's desire to see Jimmy was just to close the door on that relationship. It sounded like she needed closure. So I think the difference between Jessica and Sarah Ann is that Jessica was not trying to interrupt, the relationship that Jimmy chose, which was Chelsea. And I appreciate Jessica for that, I really do. And honestly, I think Jessica's probably better off on her own, finding a man somewhere outside of this show. She seems like such a confident, like, brilliant woman. I know she's gonna find somebody. She is also just, like, ridiculously gorgeous, let's be honest. So, anyways, that's that. Like I said, Jess does come up again. They have this little barbecue situation type of deal. She shows up. A lot of other people from the pod shows up. Trevor shows up. I should also say, now that I brought up Trevor, there was some drama that maybe Jeramey also had, like, a wife or was, like, separated from a wife or something like that. I don't really know. Like I said, I didn't vet all of these additional things, but I did see people talking about it. So if you have more tea in the comments, let me know. I'd be happy to read about it. Again, this is just my opinions based on the TV show. But also, I saw stuff about Trevor, about how Trevor apparently had a girlfriend before he went into the pods. And as soon as he got out of the pods, he texted her and was basically like, hey, like, we're all good. Like, I'm gonna get featured in such a positive light on this show. And I was like, that's interesting. I did read through some of, like, the screenshots of texts from the girlfriend, because the girlfriend is now apparently an ex-girlfriend. I don't know. Anyways, Trevor also meets up with Chelsea, and Jess meets up with Jimmy. To me, both of those conversations seem like we're just trying to get closure, and I don't need to spend a lot of time on those conversations. I don't know. Actually, Trevor seemed like he wanted to, like, push things a little bit with Chelsea. But I don't know. I think Chelsea is like so obsessed with wanting and needing attention from Jimmy that like reintroducing Trevor really had no impact on all of that, you know? I think things we got to talk about when it comes to Jimmy and Chelsea is particularly talking about Chelsea. When I made my last video, I was defending her, at least on the Megan Fox bit, because to me, it felt really unfair that people, were coming for her for saying she looked like Megan Fox. All of that aside, a lot of people also in my comments were like, what you need to know though is Chelsea's so insecure. And I'm like, I up to that point, I was like, I did not get that vibe. I didn't think that she seemed insecure at all. And now that I've watched every episode of season 6 that's out there, Girly is insecure. Girly needs to work on herself, her self-confidence, because, every moment she's on that screen, you can just see it in her eyes. She's terrified that Jimmy doesn't love her. They have one disagreement because, he worked all day and then she had friends over. And he met all of her friends, and she was upset that he hadn't kissed her yet that day. And he's like, well, babe, you're kind of clingy. And I felt like that's like a constructive piece of feedback, And it is an important conversation to have amongst a couple to talk about, like, how do y'all share and express your love to one another? But she heard the word clingy, and she was like, oh my God, I can't believe you call me clingy. That is the worst fucking thing you could ever call me. How dare you call me? How dare you call me clingy? That is so rude. And then Jimmy left, which, like, I was like, oh my God, bless him. Like, yes, leave. Because the reason she's getting so mad about this is because it's real. It's true. You hit a nerve with Miss Girl, okay? So they get over that, and she meets his friends, which he has girlfriends, okay? Which is fine. And it's just important to note because it comes up again later. And then their next big disagreement, or at least the next big one that I remember, I mean, they had so many disagreements. I just really don't know if there's a world, which, by the way, I didn't finish this, but Jeramey and Laura, they're done. Okay, they're no longer in the potential marriages pool. They're over. They officially ended things. I was thinking about, like, do I think Chelsea and Jimmy are gonna get married? I hope not. I really don't think they're in a place to marry each other. I think they should both say no. I think they absolutely should both say no. But anyways, then they had this, like, argument on camera about how Jimmy went out for like an hour the night before, had told her, my understanding is he told her he was going out, he was gonna meet friends, he was only there for an hour, and then he came home. And Chelsea got so upset, and she's like, this is not the kind of life I want. I don't want a partner who goes out. You are with your girlfriends. You are with Jess. And then he's like, that's not even true. I was not with Jess. Like, what do you mean? That is not true. And then she was like, well, some people from the pods, some girls from the pods were there and said they saw you. And he's like, who? Like, I didn't recognize anybody they knew. And then some girl named Mackenzie apparently was there. But then, like, Chelsea would never commit to saying that Mackenzie saw him with Jess there. I think because she was lying, because she was just making shit up to be upset about. And it was just so insane to me. I was like, Chelsea, you are so paranoid, so insecure. She also, at one point, brings up that she's insecure about him being friends with girls because apparently he slept with one of the girls. And then this is, again, where the show was willing to be so meta, because he was like, I thought we agreed we weren't bringing that up on camera. Like, I got her to film the show, like she agreed to come film the show. You were not supposed to bring that up on camera. It was one time, and she's just my really good friend now, but you knew about that, so I don't know why you're acting like this. And I was just like, that's wild that she literally threw his friend under the bus while the cameras were rolling. Like, crazy. And then he ended that he stayed there that night, but then the next day they woke up and had a conversation, and he's like, I went on a 4-mile walk and I don't think I want to get married anymore. And I was like, oh my God, yes, this is it. This is it. Like, first of all, who knew that I'd even be in a place where I'd be defending Jimmy, by the way, because I don't give a shit about Jimmy. I really don't. I think he was very hung up on Chelsea's looks in a really unfair way. And I just really didn't never give a shit about Jimmy. But when he said that he didn't want to get married anymore, he didn't think marriage was for him, I was like, amen. Amen. Get out. Leave. Like, I'm good. I was like, if we make it to the end of this show and the only 2 couples that are potentially getting married are AD and Clay and Johnny and Amy, I'm good. I'm good with that. But apparently they kept working on it. they kept trying to work things out. Part of me is like, I wonder if like production was like, we have to have more than 2 couples make it to the end of this experiment. So like, at least play nice. Like, even if you get to the altar and say no, play nice. Because I am curious, the very last episode that's available as of right now ended on a cliffhanger of Chelsea and Jimmy at a roller coaster theme park situation type of deal. And Jimmy has like the most normal question that comes up on this show all the time, which is like, hey, if we went to the altar today, do you think you'd say yes? Like, have you thought about what your response is? We haven't really talked about this. And you can see Chelsea's on the brink of like starting to freak out again. And I imagine in her head, she's starting to freak out thinking like, oh my gosh, like he doesn't feel confident that I love him, blah, 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 blah. But we'll see. I honestly really hope they don't. I do not think they're good for each other. It seems like a lot of insecurity going on amongst them. And so, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But anyways, that's my take. That's my take on Love is Blind Season 6. I'm all the way caught up in real time with the rest of y'all now. I'd love to hear your thoughts if you've been watching. If you're not watching, I hope you enjoyed me just rambling about all of this. Because, ooh, that was a lot. That was a lot. I feel a lot of things. These straight people are crazy. Just to be clear, though, like, a queer version of this show, I imagine, would also be just as crazy. So, I would love to see it Netflix. Like, let's get a queer Love is Blind, please. But anyways, here we are. That's all I got. Sound good? Any other thoughts, questions? Leave them in a comment down below. If you're brand new to my channel, consider subscribing. Hit the bell button so you get a notification every single time I post a new video. Hit like, click share, follow me on all my social media, and I'll see y'all in my next video. Bye!